Welcome to Multifamily Forward, presented by Mark Taylor Residential, and this is very, very exciting because this is the inaugural episode, and the man who needs no introduction sitting to the side of me here, our president, Mr. John Carlson. John, how are you?
I'm well. Good morning. Excited to be here.
And John, I know that you've been talking about this as far as creating a podcast, not only just about Mark Taylor, but talking about several different topics that we will discuss in future episodes. How did this come forth for you? How did you see this vision?
Well, I think we've been discussing this internally for a long time with creative, our communication team, ourselves, and really understanding, the environment of how people want to communicate. And podcasting certainly makes sense today. In addition, we have some great partnerships, relationships, experts within the multifamily space. So we thought this could be the hub or spoken hub of podcast for multifamily, and really introduce some great leaders, some great thought-provoking individuals for multifamily. So here we are.
Well, I have to, I think you'll agree that there's not a better topic right now to start off with than centralized leasing. The centralized...
I've heard of it, yes.
We've been talking about it for a while. And this isn't new to multifamily, especially going back to the pandemic. But the pandemic taught us a lot, of course.
Sure.
So why don't we define what centralized leasing is within the multifamily industry?
Sure. I think it has a variety of meetings for different groups. Certainly, if you go pre-pandemic, so going back to even 2018, we as an organization were hyper-focused on lead management, really understanding, for every dollar spent, what were we creating in terms of that activity, and really distilling that and understanding how we could be transparent with our clients and our operations team. So fast forward to the pandemic, I think the pandemic really accelerated the thoughtfulness around centralization. And what I mean by that is you had a specific environment where you had technology advancing swiftly, as we know it today. You had, I'll say, the generational effects. So you had millennials and Gen Z specifically really, I'll say, pushing for self-service.
Sure.
I think through the pandemic, we've learned that that's transformed into other generations. Even my mom is using apps today.
Is that amazing?
So, yeah. I think that was a fantastic transition point. So looking for positives from the pandemic. I think for us, centralization has evolved from centralized leasing. I think that was always the general nomenclature or description that we're going to centralize leasing.
Yes.
I think today for us, we think about it as centralization. So in all aspects of the business. So to answer your question, I think centralization is really about capturing more efficiencies and specialization, and everyone looks at that a bit different.
And we have created our own platform. Would you like to discuss that a little bit? And sorry, to our viewers, we are very big on acronyms. So we are going to do our very best to make sure that we are defining what those are. Let's start with ION.
Sure. So we have a saying internally, and it's innovate today to ensure a successful tomorrow. And through ION, which is our integrated operations network, that is our centralized, specialized hybrid operation platform. So let's go back to the pandemic.
Okay.
And I think this is important. And I think there was, and for many, as I talk to leaders across the country, I think about I think about the springboard of the pandemic from that perspective. So April of 2020, we had shut down. I think it was March 25th, Governor Ducey, the great Governor Ducey, put essentially a blockade on operations, right? If you remember that.
I think everyone remembers.
So we closed the doors. We were essential services, but doors were locked to the public. After April's data summary came through, we're very data driven. We leased about twice as many apartments as we otherwise would have on a per unit basis. With our doors locked during the very initial stages of a pandemic, which, there was a lot of fear at that time in terms of what that would look like. So we had to sit back and say, what just happened?
Right.
And really, I'll say, unpack what we had been doing for decades as an industry, including ourselves. And I know there was a moment, I don't know the exact date, but we sat back after an executive meeting. I just said the old apartment model that we know is dead. It's no longer in existence. The question is, how fast do we ramp up into the new wave of technology, the new innovation, self-servicing, all of those things? And we've been really unpacking everything we do, both at the corporate office level and the on-site level, to understand what that looks like and how we could build the ION of tomorrow. And we certainly don't have everything figured out. This is a work in progress, but we've learned a lot in the last 2.5, 3 years.
Sure.
So when I think about ION and the white paper we introduced in late early 2021, I don't know the exact date, we really focused on 3 things. And I think this is why centralization has flourished into the topic du jour of today. It's about residents, its employees, and its clients or ownership groups. So if you look at those 3 buckets, and that's how we really crafted the white paper, there's significant benefits for all 3 of those as you centralize and become more specialized. So if you think about employees, you create a better vertical for employee career paths. Of course, create different opportunities during that journey. We're creating new roles. We have a concierge platform. We have a PFOA, which is financial operations. So all of these things and more will be built out as we develop ION, and others do the same. When you think about residents, residents from all different demographics have different needs and wants. So being able to self-serve, some folks, there's an article I read last week that said 70% of residents don't want to speak to their management company. So are we capable of meeting them with the needs and expectations?
Sure.
While also perhaps it's a baby boomer or a young Gen Zer just wants to talk to us.
Right.
So we got to meet them at all of these steps during their journey to ensure that 5-star experience. And then clients, right? So owners, in terms of maximizing the bottom line.
Sure.
With technology, and for us, a hybrid solution, there's an ability to improve or enhance that bottom line. So you're creating a better customer experience, better employee experience, and improving the financial operations for ownership groups. It's a win-win-win.
And let me know if this is a safe statement or an accurate statement to make. So you mentioned as far as enhancing the bottom line, right? Maximizing the financial performance of each asset. We're not taking away employment. Are we enhancing employment with the ION platform?
No question. So, I think there's a lot of wasted motion with the old model.
Right.
And I'll give you one example. You might have, as an ownership group or management company, you might have 2 properties within 2 miles of each other. And you might have a very slow Monday at one community where the staff is, fully staffed.
Sure.
But there's no move-ins. There's no leasing activity. Nothing's scheduled. You might have one move out. While 2 miles down the road at a sister community, they have a flood. They have 7 tours.
They're going
17
crazy.
move-ins. They're going crazy. But we're not allocating those resources from a technology scheduling perspective and or just workforce management. So that's just one simple example. And there's many behind that to support the use and success rate of ION and centralization long term.
Love it. Love it. Well, you mentioned in our opening that, we're fortunate enough to have an amazing group of relationships and partnerships. And of course, we're going to have some experts as far as our special guests for each of our individual episodes. I don't think there's anyone better than our Vice President of Marketing and Technology, Mr. Dustin Lacey. We're going to bring him in here in a short bit, learn a little bit about him, maybe pepper him with a couple questions and may keep him on the edge of his seat.
He's got a lot to say. So
does he?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's bring him in.
He is the human thesaurus within our office as well, right?
A kid that read the dictionary a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
It's bound to happen.
I love it. Well, why don't we bring him in?
All right.
Well, what a treat this is. We mentioned Mr. Lacey coming in to join us. So the man who does not need any type of introduction. And if it's okay, I'm going to share just one nickname that we have for you.
Oh, boy.
D-Lace.
All right.
So let's make a proper introduction. Our Vice President of Marketing and Technology, Mr. Dustin Lacey. Dustin, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Ooh, that was nice and subtle. I like that little lean in on the microphone, too.
I'm making sure I'm heard here.
So we discussed this in all of our production meetings. And you know what? I think it's important to mention this right now. Our director, producer extraordinaire, who is off camera right now, Miss Allison Salit, by the way, who just recently was engaged to
soon to be Miss Allison Russell.
I love it. She, I don't know, maybe at least 10, 15 times had reminded all 3 of us to make sure that we don't cuss and swear during our episode. I think she may know us a little within the office. So we're going to do our best.
Clean
We
living.
will. Clean living.
Yep.
Uh,
Best foot forward.
D-Lace, I think it's probably a good way to have our audience get to know you a little bit. So we're going to pepper you with some questions. Are you ready for this?
Yep, bring it.
Okay. Knowing that you have a large family.
Yeah. Thought you were going to say large head, but go ahead.
No,
That
we'll
too.
leave that one alone. Yes.
Okay.
4 kids,
Yes.
beautiful wife.
Yes.
What does your morning routine look like?
What does my morning routine look like? It's kind of organized chaos. We have twins at the top, 9-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old, all boys, who have, listening challenges occasionally. So the mornings consist of me getting up about 5:30, knocking out a workout, getting back in time to either play catch with them in the front yard or go through their multiplication division, frankly.
Very nice.
Because nobody wants to sit in the class and not know what's going on. So that's important. And then it's off to schools because we have them at separate schools. And I take a cohort, drop them, and then head straight into work. So it's pretty straightforward. Sometimes I have breakfast. This is all scintillating information, I'm sure. But I'm a creature of habit, so that's generally my practice.
I love it. I love
Thanks.
it. And if there was one thing about you that people would never guess, what would that be?
I'm a identical twin.
I was. If you didn't share that, I was going to throw that out.
Yeah, and my wife and I have identical twins, so it didn't skip a generation. So that's very interesting. And my grandmother was an identical twin too. So that's one. Another one that folks might find interesting is I've delivered a baby.
You did not.
Yeah, in college.
Not yours.
Nope, not mine.
Okay, I wanted to identify that.
Yeah. It was the rare occasion where I was on time for my waiting
Banderas.
job.
Banderas.
At Bandera.
Old Town Scottsdale.
Yeah, in Old Town Scottsdale. And almost got hit walking across the street. And, van door flew open, and a gal was, in the process of delivering the child. And there were bystanders, but nobody was kind of doing anything. And so I had on this, if you've ever gone to a George Beale restaurant, they require really pressed shirts, white shirts. And I was concerned about that for some reason, but jumped in, delivered the baby, ended up delivering the baby to the hospital in a police car. And, it was really kind of a neat experience. The baby wasn't breathing. I got to figure out how to burp it and take the umbilical cord around the neck. All of that was
I'm going to say this. You need to throw this in your book.
Yeah.
This story needs to
probably.
be in the book.
Yeah. So that was special. And then it was on the CNN ticker back. You remember back in the old days when
of
CNN
course.
was kind of the de facto
Yeah.
media outlet, and they the ticker said Arizona waiter special delivery with Arizona waiter or something. And then there was some fun media that followed that.
Love it.
So that was cool.
Love it.
experience.
Dr. Lacey.
Dr.
Yeah.
Lacey. I like
Far
it.
from it.
I think another interesting fact about you is that you are an Arizona native.
I am born in Tucson, raised in Prescott, Arizona, not Prescott, Prescott.
Thank
Yeah.
you for identifying that.
That's
Yes,
right.
proper
That's right.
pronunciation. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm also a returning Arizona-born individual. I lived in California for 5 years. So it's nice to be back.
Good. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we have one of your most favorite topics to discuss today.
We do.
Of course, we heard John starting off with centralization. What challenges right now is the multifamily industry experiencing with centralization?
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to speak for all of us, but based on many conversations and gaining in frequency, certainly in the last 18 months post-COVID, 3 things have kind of emerged that have been our basis, kind of the organizing principle for us relative to our dispositional shift operationally to centralized services. We started to see, number one, that self-servicing became a preference for our target demo. They who rent our Class A communities. That was a surprise. COVID certainly accelerated that because that was your only option at the time. And now it is certainly here to stay. Staffing challenges are the predominant issue, candidly. And I think I can speak for the industry here. The vast majority of us that are, operating in the multifamily space are finding it very difficult to not only find but also retain talent. And that has the downstream impact of affecting performance, which then obviously, to John's point, puts at risk your ability to realize the financial potential of your property.
Right.
And so these staffing challenges mean more money spent in terms of securing, retaining, training, all of the different variables. And if you look at it, honestly, you recognize that your entry points for both service and leasing, those are your highest turnover roles. And quite frankly, those are the folks that perhaps have the highest touch with both your prospect and your resident. They're the ones that are touring, et cetera. So if you see diminished service levels there, you're going to feel it operationally. So that's a big piece. And then obviously downstream from staffing challenges is exploding payroll cost. Very much a reality for us post-COVID.
And this is really a blessing in disguise for our industry, because if you take, just pick any industry, landscaping, plumbing, HVAC, they all experience staffing shortages as well.
It's not unique to us.
They didn't have this type of option.
Yeah.
Correct?
It's true.
So are there any other limitations to this besides staffing that we could discuss? Anything on the technological side?
Yeah, I mean, so there are, we've been at this since 18. We started with lead gen, so we needed to own our lead gen engine, and started that process in 18, and quickly realized after we had successfully kind of done that, we're now ILS independent today, so we don't operate on ILSs with our. And
can you define ILS? There we go with the acronyms.
Internet listing services like apartments.com, et cetera. For us, that was a premium fee-based cost that was very difficult to attribute outcome to. We had this massive kind of footprint online with the various ILS networks, and found it very difficult to understand what in fact we were getting for every dollar spent. And so for us, it meant controlling that ecosystem, reducing our footprint, really ensuring that we understand or we understood what our advertiser was in fact doing, given that's the lifeblood, operational lifeblood of our communities. We needed to do that well. So we solved for that, and we're successful, and quickly we're able to deploy this dual website footprint that's been very successful for us. The second piece that became very apparent that we needed to touch was call answer rates. So we started our centralized journey in 18 with lead gen, moved quickly into lead management. We knew that we were doing a good job from a call answer rate, or at least we thought we were at that time. We were at a 52% call answer rate. That was considered top 3 in the country, with LeaseHawk, who is,
and the national average?
So the national average today, so at that time, LeaseHawk's national average was hovering around the low 40s. And so we felt good about ourselves. And then we actually stepped back and assessed and started to realize that that's not good enough. So if our average cost per lead was, anywhere from, at that time, $25 to $700 per lead, if we weren't answering our phones, and what we know now today is if you don't answer your phones, your probability of converting to a lease is sub 2%. Of course. Even for us, it's almost not worth it to even work the lead if you haven't answered that phone. And so for us, we made that move, and we started addressing the call answer rates. Today, we hover somewhere around 92, 93%. And in doing so, we've been able to successfully drive out ad costs to the tune of about $4.5 million a year.
That's a big increase. John, I'm going to bring you in on this because this question goes to both of you, if you don't mind, please. So,
sure.
Why is centralized lease, or the centralization platform, why is this so important to other PMCs, investors, and ownership groups? What is the benefit for them?
There's a variety of answers. I think if you look at it from a PMC perspective and or ownership, it is about staffing shortages as Dustin mentioned. That's a component of just, it's really demographic shifts. It's having a workforce that is less willing to participate in multifamily. I think from an ownership perspective, you have, a proclivity to want to say, I want to maximize my financials, my NOI. So how can we do that without compromising the standards of service? And I think really good owners, we have a great set of them, understand that there's some challenges to that. So we want to make sure that the service aspect remains. So it goes back to what I said in the intro. It's about the resident experience. But you have to tie in the employee experience to ensure that that happens. If you're not creating a 5-star employee experience, how on earth can you create a 5-star resident experience?
Mm-hmm.
And then the clients, right? Making sure that they're seeing that from a transparency perspective. So what Dustin alluded to, and it's a if you broaden that out, going back to 18 and before, I've been in this business 20 plus years. We were more of a shotgun type approach marketing I'll just say as a sector base. It was not just Mark Taylor, it was everybody. We're going to do a gatefold. We're going to do front page on apartments.com, ILS, and then maybe we'll answer the phone 50% of the time. We're the old model. We're setting up a leasing consultant at a community on a Saturday. There's one, just say it for 200 units. They're on a tour, or they're talking to a resident. They can't answer the phone.
No way.
So we're saying, well, we're not being successful with this call answer rate. Well, they have to do too many things. So it all ties back to specialization. So can we invest the right way to specialize in all of these specific areas, create an environment where a MT concierge person from ION, from Integrated Operations Network, can answer the phone. That's their role. So now we can move those rates, those call answer rates above 90%. So that's the concept. So conceptually, we want to be specialized, and that's how we get there. And so it benefits all three of those categories.
We've all been residents at some point, right?
Yeah.
The days of you need an apartment, you walk into a leasing office, there's already 2 people there that are waiting for tours. You mentioned, more likely probably a Saturday since everyone's working during the week in most cases. If there's 1, maybe 2 leasing agents there, you're sitting there and waiting, right? So from these surveys, from what we've learned, just from what we've done here at Mark Taylor, what are we hearing from the residents? Do they like being able to schedule an appointment on their time?
So it's been well received. Today, we allow our residents to schedule amenities and time with us. So this notion of, or what I would associate with the previous operating model, folks would just walk in with any sort of topic or issue. We would always be unprepared, if not unavailable. Now they get the benefit of allowing us time, dedicated time to meet with them, and we can prepare for that discussion so it becomes more meaningful interaction for them. So they leave feeling like they've been heard and taken care of, which yields a more favorable response from them. So yes, we've seen the benefit.
I'd say, my analogy is it's akin to a doctor's office. How often, Adam, do you walk into your general practitioner and just say, hey, how you doing? I'm just here for a checkup.
Never.
No, you schedule that out. And I think to Dustin's point, we really want to make sure that we're available for them and giving them 100% attention during that process. So, if they have an issue with a neighbor, we know about that.
Right.
We can address that during that time frame and dedicate that time to them. And I think that's a really important shift, not only for our sector from an operational perspective, but also for residents, because for many years, I can just walk in. And I think as we start to, change the behavior on both sides, it'll be a more effective experience and better experience for both sides.
Thank you. Let's roll back a little bit, because we were talking about specialization, call answer rates,
Mm-hmm.
right? And lead gen, of course.
Mm-hmm.
How does this all come together? Let's connect those dots real quick.
Sure. So I'll give you the Mark Taylor perspective.
Okay.
As I mentioned, we started in 18 with lead gen. Own that, create certainty around it. All we care about at Mark Taylor is peace of mind at the end of the day. If we can control it, if we can manage it, that's what provides us that peace of mind. So we started with lead gen in 18, moved quickly into lead management. Most recently started moving into the resident management piece, and now have a concierge team that serves both the leasing team, prospects, as well as residents. We are addressing service. We have a centralized collections motion in place. We have a centralized IT function in place. And we have now feathered in an accounting piece as well, the reporting predominantly, but other aspects of it as well. So it's a broad palette of centralized services, which, by the way, and it's important to note, when you create these specialized roles, given our our demographic here in terms of employees is now predominantly Gen Z.
Right.
These are folks that have grown up with an expectation of what is required of me. And so if you give them a generalist role, it becomes more difficult for them to derive that sense of value from their jobs. This is a driver for turnover. Versus if you give them a specialist role, clear rules and expectations, that allows them to feel better about what they're doing. How are we starting
with KPIs?
With KPIs, measurables. So now you're able to surface their performance. Because on any given day when you're in a generalist role, you may be pulled from something you in fact like doing that you deliver well on, but you're unable to because you've had multiple folks, residents come in, and so this allows them a singular focus where they can excel and feel good about what they're doing.
So that's,
go ahead,
can I
please.
An example? I was an assistant manager 1,000 years ago, and
you look good though.
Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah, dinosaur-esque. On any given Sunday, not to plug football, which is coming up, can't wait. But on any given Sunday, I would do a weekly report summarizing leasing activity.
Right.
I would be rushed to the sales floor if we were busy, so I would be sales, leasing, customer service. I might be sending out a 5-day notice. So I'm playing lawyer. I'm collecting checks.
Many hats
at the time, right? I'm doing a finance component or operational perspective. So yeah, I mean, all of these hats, I can't even find all the hats. So being a generalist, it's really difficult to be great at all of those roles. And you can pick any sports analogy. You don't have a punter playing quarterback or vice versa, right? So we knew that the destination for us was to become specialized in all of these areas, and then understanding how broadly they'd start to collectively come together as a fabric.
That's right.
So we're trying to figure that out.
It's a great point.
We're still learning. There's a lot to do, but we have a pathway forward.
So Dustin mentioned all these different layers that we've created within the centralization, if I can say it correctly, platform.
Yeah.
What's next for MT, for Mark Taylor?
For us, we're going to continue to invest heavily in ION. It's really important to the success for us tomorrow. It will certainly transition how we operate, all of our fundamentals, our specialization. We're going to elevate our operational skill set at all of those levels. I think longer term with Mark Taylor Residential Consulting, MTRC, ION will be a piece of that. So if you're an owner of 4,000 units in San Diego and you don't know where to start, you don't understand maybe what this centralization thing looks like,
right?
We're going to be here to help you, right? We're going to help you start. You can, essentially join or add to our platform, and we can support you through that process and really alleviate a lot of those pressure points, especially if you're a smaller management or ownership group. So more to come on that, but please reach out to us because we will be really scheduling that out in 2024 and beyond to support our consulting arm and ION.
It's a perfect segue, and thanks for mentioning that. So, Dustin, you are part of a group, a national group that you lead regarding this platform.
Right.
John, of course, you mentioned, we always love being leaders in this industry, which we are. We're humbled by that, of course. We've made the mistakes. We continue to make those mistakes, but also being able to share that with our future clients.
Yeah.
So if you are a property management company right now, don't know where to start, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, I would expand the aperture. I'd say if you're an owner or an operator, we've made all the mistakes. I think both John and Adam alluded to it. There's a lot of pitfalls here. It is a sizable challenge. It does require that you start somewhere. And our emphasis with this group, and certainly for me with everybody that's listening, and because I am asked quite a bit by peers within the industry to talk about what in fact we're doing and where do I start, how do I tackle this? The first thing is you got to get started, right? We would suggest humbly that you start with lead gen, own that engine. If not lead gen, because that's probably the smallest bite for you. If not that, start with lead management. Start answering your phones. Pull a top leasing consultant off a property, place them at another property, or maybe just keep them there in seat, given you have the right software. We utilize the Union platform, which is a consolidated interface that allows us to manage multiple properties from one interface.
Right.
It's multi-threaded. You can chat, SMS, phone calls, all of it through the platform. You can identify somebody who is adept at the lead management piece, somebody that will be a dedicated concierge, and you can start tomorrow and direct your calls to that individual for a pod of properties. We at Mark Taylor deploy 3 property pods today. And you can start there and you will see immediate impact. And if you start to do that well, the downstream impact to leasing activity, leasing velocity, and then as a knock-on to ad spend will be favorable for you. So if you're asking yourself, hey, this sounds grandiose and great, but it's almost insurmountable, it's not. Break it into small pieces and start tackling the smaller pieces. We suggest you start with lead gen and lead management.
It's a good point. So you both were talking. So it's a pretty big investment. I'm not talking just on the financial side, but just in pre-planning, executing. How would any operator or ownership group, how do you define success at that point?
2 ways. So number one, just the bottom line, right? So what are we seeing today? We're seeing, because we are able to answer our phones and because we're able to provide immediate service at a white glove level, we're able to drive out cost, right? So if you're looking for cost reduction, both from the staffing side, if you're looking for relief there, as well as from the marketing side, this is a way to do it. As well as downstream, just retention. Better retention means less efforting around securing and keeping individuals as well. And by the way, the necessity of having a full staff on property suddenly goes away, while simultaneously the performance improves. That's a winning twofer for most folks.
No question.
Right. Is centralization, is it just one box that can be plugged into any ownership group?
No.
Or it can't be,
No.
right? It has to be specialized.
No, it must be customized to your organization.
Okay.
So you need to thoughtfully look at how you're going to attack it. You need to assess what your true strengths are. You need to understand if you have the requisite individuals to lead it, because you need dedicated leadership for this. And then you need to determine where you're going to attack from. Our suggestion, unsolicited, is you don't start.
I like that you smiled that before you're making this comment.
Don't start with service.
All right.
It's the biggest challenge in our experience. For a lot of reasons. John alluded to the fact that, if you're multi-state, centralization becomes less of an opportunity, certainly from the service side. But I would say that even if you're multi-state, centralized lead gen, centralized prospect and resident management, so lead management and resident management can be done from anywhere. We ourselves secured a second HQ to house our team, but do what you will, but I would suggest you probably start with the easier bite, and that doesn't include service.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I just really, if you fast forward and think about this long term, I really see this as, our industry is flipping itself on its head.
Right.
So all I mean by that is, from, the 80s, 90s, 2000s through really 2018, 19, most of things that happened, most of the operational duties, priorities, aspects, fundamentals were all at the site level, right? It was controlled through that great MCO. And if you talk to owners over time, I need to have that great, and when I say MCO manager, to control all of those levers, right? And it's a difficult job to do at a high level with all of those levers being pulled on a daily basis, to more of a centralized role where almost everything is controlled through centralization.
Right.
And you're executing the things that you have to do at the site level through centralization. So, 90-10 to 90-10.
Sure.
It's flipping it, really 180.
Sure. We've hear about this on the news, media, talking about it just amongst ourselves as well. We've mentioned all the different layers that play a role. Does artificial intelligence or a chatbot, does this layer in there somewhere?
So why don't we attack it from two different vantage points? What it isn't is an adequate stand-in for human interaction. So we are exclusively Class A. We'll be 100 plus properties by end of year. What we can't do is diminish the perceived experience of our residents who, frankly, average household income, $125,000. These are folks that know what good looks like.
Of course.
So it needs to arm them with the abilities, however, because self-servicing is here and they like that, but it can't be a deprecated experience to that which they, frankly, and John shared an article last week from, what was it, Apartment News, regarding a survey of current residents.
Yes.
Where we found what?
70% of residents just don't want to talk to us.
It's amazing.
That's right.
It's amazing.
However, that isn't impetus for you to completely disband your property teams and suddenly place a AI chatbot who's frankly inadequate to the task. Natural language library allows current chatbots, and we've evaluated all of them before we chose to build our own with Union, can only answer up to 200 explicit questions and the various permutations thereof. It's an inadequate experience. It's not a standalone solution. You have to be able to provide human support as well, lest you risk offering a diminished experience and it starts to hurt you operationally.
But I would say too, on that note, as we've, created Hobbs through Union, Hobbs is our AI chat tool.
Yep.
Sure.
He's already, or she, or we're not sure, Hobbs has really elevated the experience from a very baseline perspective in terms of response time. So if you just want to learn about pet breeds, Hobbs knows the answer.
Something quick.
Right? It's immediate, right?
Yeah.
So you think about someone that's in a chat box or texting, they want that information.
That's right.
Now, can I bring my dog Prince to this community? Does he fit the breed restrictions? So that will elevate over time, and Hobbs is learning.
It's another tool.
But absolutely, I think that will build as a foundational element of that, both on leasing support side or concierge and also resident support.
So to round this out, right, is centralization, is it just the wave of the future, just something that is fun to talk about, or is this here to stay and this is the way our industry is going to run moving forward?
I mean, we're one data point here, and John can answer as well. It's now, table talk at home. 18 months ago, we were all at these conferences.
Yeah.
We were all the industry conferences, and there was no mention. Suddenly, all that we seemingly talk about now is AI and centralized, which is evidence that this is a movement that's here to stay. To what degree for each individual PMC remains to be seen.
Love it. Gentlemen, I think we covered...
I don't get to answer?
Oh,
Sorry,
I was
Johnny.
trying to cut you off there for a second. No,
Yes, you
absolutely.
were.
Absolutely you can.
So do you guys know who John Scully is? He was the kind of the in-between CEO of Apple. When Steve Jobs was asked to leave, he took over. He was VP at the time.
Vince Scully's brother.
I don't know about that. I doubt it.
We'll have to
big
fact
age
check
gap.
that one.
Back check it.
And then, so he was there, I think, for 4 or 5 years. Not sure exactly sure, but he had a quote that said, innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not as a threat. And I think, as always, you can have really a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. I think for us, we're fully in the growth mode, and we're really in 1.0 of centralization.
That's right.
We've been building this since 18. We've really accelerated over the last 2 or 3 years, but I think we're 1.0. We're Sony Discman, pre-iPod,
Sure.
iPhone. So there's a lot of, I'll say, generational 2.0, 3.0 ahead of us. So I'm excited to see what it looks like in 2030.
Can't wait.
We have a footprint. We have a plan. We're going to do our best to innovate and execute so that we are successful. But I'm just excited about the fact that a lot of brain power, faith is in this process. Not just us, but through your program, your leadership across the country, and just a lot of great minds focused on making this successful. So I'm excited for the future.
So should our residents, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you're interested in participating in the centralized leasing group and you're on LinkedIn, find me or John or Adam, and we'd be happy to include you in the phase 2 rollout of that planning. We're building a framework with which each of the participating individuals can take back to their respective property management groups and begin the process, which is frankly the most important piece. Got to get started now.
Got to get started.
D-Lace, John, can't say thank you enough for your continued leadership, for your sharing your visions
Thank you.
well, because as you said, it's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
I think we should start a tradition moving forward where we always end our episode with what we are grateful for today.
Ooh,
So
I like that.
I'm going to start with you, Dustin. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, immediately, I think we already referenced it. I'm grateful for the fact that our company is healthy and happy. Good things happen to good people. Allie is an example of that. We referenced the fact that she just got engaged. I'm eternally grateful for the blessing that is my wife and the 4 children that she has given me, and the opportunity to come in and materially impact an organization under John's leadership in ways that, initially I think probably would have scared some folks. I'm very grateful for all of those aspects of my life.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. John?
I'll pivot to work. However, to start, every morning, my wife Stefania and I, we take about 5 minutes. It's
Sure.
fast, but we just, we do a little gratitude session. She meditates, and I'm thankful for 3 things every morning, as she is. I think in this moment, I'm ultra thankful to launch Multifamily Forward. I want to give a shout out to Allie, Brian, and Jessica for really helping orchestrate this.
Amazing.
You're obviously a great host, great talent, so I'm excited to be here with you. And I'm just grateful to be part of this great tradition of Mark Taylor, and I'm hopeful that we can lead and push forward and see what happens with centralization. I know we'll be a part of it.
Yeah.
We'll be a part of the conversation, and that excites me.
Future's bright.
I'm gonna throw in as well. I mean, walking into these doors just a little bit over a year ago, I felt the energy inside the walls.
Yes.
I've bled Mark Taylor Blue for many, many years, even prior to joining the organization.
Thank you.
There is not a door that I can't walk into at any given time in either building and always have the attention of who I'm speaking to, whether it's needing guidance, just asking a simple question. And I think you both know I have a lot of questions, sometimes more so than you would like, but you never hesitate to share your wisdom and guidance. So I'm just eternally grateful just to be part of this team.
Yeah.
And it is, like you said, this is exciting moving forward. I get excited when I come into the office every day.
Yeah.
And lastly, shout out to my boy, Vinny. What's up, Bubba? So guys, thank you again. This is fantastic. Our first episode in the books, many more to come.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Multifamily Forward, presented by Mark Taylor Residential.